Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacalyn. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacalyn at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello and welcome back to USA Global TV and Business Talk Radio. I am Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and I'm thrilled that you are here with us today for the Business Talk Show. This gentleman has been with me since the very beginning, and I have to just keep saying it over and over again. Al, I'm not going to stop, but what we have created together and the people that we've brought to this platform are truly amazing, and I feel life-changing. We are giving people a platform to share their story, and let's bring out my friend, colleague, and partner, the man, the myth, the legend. It's Mr. al.cini.
Wow, Dr. Jacalyn, that is tough to live up to, but I'll do my best. Thanks for inviting me, as always.
Well, I'm glad to see you're here, and backstage you were actually singing, which makes my heart sing.
That was a private concert just for you, but it's something I learned I could do out loud at the Listening Mentor. Chapter 3, part 3 of the program is where we did some exercises. One of them was singing. It was very eye-opening, completely surprising to me because I've never really thought of myself that way. But you know, the way you vocalize, the way you breathe, all those things are part and parcel to how you live your life and how effectively you incorporate others into your life, which is essentially listening. And it was a great experience. I highly recommend it.
Well, thank you, Al. I appreciate that. And I want your opinion about this before we get into the program.
Sure.
But I find when I'm singing that I feel lighter, and I actually just started playing the piano again and trying to combine the singing and the piano playing with my nails clicking is another story. But I feel so much more inspired when I'm singing.
I know that there's been brain research. There are a number of people who have through their lives had stuttering problems. Well, the interesting thing about singing is you don't stutter when you sing. So people who stutter don't stutter when it's been shown that different parts of your brain are responsible for that. So the more you get to use whatever part of your brain it is that actually vocalizes that way, the more effective the part of your brain that doesn't sing becomes. So it's worth doing, even if you can't do it concert class super well. It's not about the quality, it's about the act itself. I think there's a lot of benefit to that.
I agree with you. So we encourage you out there, if you're watching or listening, to start singing. Bring singing into your life. I think
Belt it out. Yes. And then apologize later if you have to.
Al, you create so much wonderful content on your own and RVN television. You've got your own programs over there. You're also an entrepreneur and so much more. But I'd love for you to share with us what you're doing. And I know we've got a brand new clip that we want to share with the audience as well. Would you like to tee that up?
Yeah, I would. I thank you very much, Doc. I appreciate that. We're surrounded by wonderful stories of people, and I don't have to tell you this. This is something you know very well. We're surrounded all the time by wonderful, unsung, getting back to that, unsung heroes, people who do amazing things on behalf of other people, who advocate for people, advocate for causes, and that advocacy generates terrific content. So based on the fact that over years of working with you and working at RVN, I've had great opportunities to meet some wonderful people. I'm working with Mark Iorio and Lisa Manioki at RVN to produce a new program for them called The Advocates, which is a program that spotlights people helping people. It's all about people doing good things to help other people. And we're all excited about it, and I'm looking forward to it. And it starts on March 9th on rvntelevision.com. I appreciate the opportunity to mention that to people, and I hope some of the people watching and listening will make a point of tuning in.
Fantastic. So let us run the clip.
And I have a story about it too. So go ahead and run it.
All right, here we go. Woo!
What do you think?
I love it. I love it.
That
I
was,
love the people, the imagery, the music. I think it's very well done. Did you do it?
I did the video part of it. The music, though, and that was the story I wanted to tell you. The music was done by Garrett Manioki, who is Lisa Manioki's son. So we were thinking, well, where are we going to find the music for this? And it turns out that her son has a gift. Garrett has kind of a gift for doing things like that, and so he pulled that together for us. And it's a kind of a family thing too. I mean, I think it's always great when you see people that you care about stepping outside their comfort zone and doing things maybe they never thought they could do. Garrett's an example. You, Dr. Jacalyn, are an example. You mentioned you gave an awful lot of credit to me, but honestly, as I watch your program and participate in your program every week, every time I think you've reached the highest level you possibly can, you somehow fool me and reach another higher level the next week. So, I mean, you become so comfortable interviewing people and so positive in your outlook and so connected with so many wonderful people that your program really just keeps getting better and better. I'm just proud to be a small part of it and happy to have helped.
Well, thank you, Al. You're always so humble. You are a big part of it, and I appreciate it. And I think all of the growth that we have is reflected in my increasing eczema flare. So I
It's
think they go together.
It can be a little stressful sometimes, can it? As in today's example, because we're talking with Hiett Ives today, and at the moment he's a blank thumbnail in the backstage. We're still waiting for him to get his camera worked out. But I'm looking forward to that conversation because we're going to be talking. Do you remember trade shows, Dr. Jacalyn?
Oh my
Trade
gosh.
shows?
Walking the trade show floors.
Oh, some of the most fun I've ever had has been working trade shows or walking trade show floors. I mean, they really are. And, since COVID, and the way we do it going forward will never be the same. So when Hiett finally gets his camera stuff worked out, I'm curious to know what his take is on the future of the whole concept of trade shows and where it's going.
I am as well. And I do want to say hello to Janetta Barry. Yes, singing is heart opening. I think you two were in the course together, weren't you?
We were. I think we didn't quite do a duet. I think we just sort of argued with each other vocally. As I recall, that's what it sounded like. But it was great. It was wonderful. She was in that program too. It was so much fun, Janetta.
Jeanette is joining us from East Africa, and she was actually on an earlier show that we co-host, The Art of Creating Mental Health Wellness. So, I'm sorry, mental health wealth.
Wonderful.
9 shows today, Al. So I've got to.
Is this number 9?
I think this is 5 or 6. I forget.
Whoa, you've got 2 or 3 more after this.
I do. Yes, it's Wednesdays and Fridays are back to back to back. So it's actually it's a lot of fun, and I do want to talk about trade shows in the capacity that I was involved with them, and I think Hiett will be ready at that point. So I was in my corporate career, as you know, and I spent my whole career in sales. And of course, when you're in sales, you either are in the booth giving the pitch, or you're at the event trying to solicit business from people who are there, display exhibitors, or they could be keynote speakers or other people. And I think you learn a lot. First of all, you get the bag, right? You know, the bag that people are giving up bags and you're collecting stuff.
And then you collect all these things at all the different tables. I remember. Sure.
And then you have to take a flight home and you're thinking, what am I going to do with this bag of stuff? And you just leave it for housekeeping. That's what I did many times.
I remember enough of it to know that when it came time to pack the bags at the end of the show, I wondered where I was going to put all that stuff. For me, anyway, it was computer trade shows. That was mostly, I was in technology. And there was a lot of stuff. I mean, you'd go from not just pens and hats but some big things. So but I miss that whole experience. That's why it'll be fun to talk about. Hiett, I guess, can fill us in on whether he believes it'll ever come back to the way it used to be. I hope it does.
Yes. And I see Hiett is backstage, so let's bring him out.
Good.
We're going to welcome to the show one of our team members here. He is an elevated listener, which means he has taken the power of listening, and he has a certificate to show that he's graduated. So you definitely want to get to know Hiett. You want to be able to work with Hiett because he definitely is someone who listens. Welcome to the program, Hiett Ives.
Hi there. How are you this afternoon?
Hi. How are you, buddy? I was just thinking as Dr. Jacalyn was talking about us, we kind of barely got a passing grade in the listening mentor, you and I. Yeah. So I'm thinking you and I are going to be together in summer school with a remedial program.
Well, for whatever reason, my camera is not playing nice with me. So
that's one of the most flattering poses I've seen you frozen in, Hiett. So, pretty good.
Yes, you don't have any contorted facial expressions, so this is fine. So, Hiett, I'm not going to spotlight you only because you're frozen, but if you would share with our audience, you are an expert when it comes to business strategies, also trade shows. You are an author. You are a Toastmaster. What can you share with us about your expertise when it comes to trade shows?
I have always enjoyed building things. When I went to work for a oil equipment company here in Houston many years ago, I was the new kid on the block, and they said we were having a trade show down at the convention center. It's a 20 by 20 booth. Hey, you newbie, go down there and put it together. Well, I went down there. I did. Had fun with it. Met a British gentleman who because I have the love for the Brits, having spent time over there. And he said, business to business marketing is the in thing, and business to business trade show marketing is the in thing. So I said, okay. So this was easily, 5 decades ago, almost. And I love, as I said, putting things together and designing things, and then putting that together with my business expertise of showing, the old 80-20 principle. 20% of your product line is brings in 80% of your income. So I said, hey, okay, the only thing I can exhibit, or the only thing I should be exhibiting, is the 20% plus the new stuff, and it works. And then I got into the how to qualify delegates, or more specifically, how to get delegates qualifying themselves. So everybody walking by the booth is, how do you use this in your operation? Who is responsible for this in your company? What application do you have for this in your company? Where in your operation do you use this? And of course, the who, what, how, when, where, how, the 5 questions. And that's, you don't say hello, how are you, anything. You hit them between the eyes with a 2x4. So it's putting the whole thing together, designing the booth, putting what needs to be in the booth, designing the collateral material, which is always show specific, audience specific, and then getting them to qualify themselves so that they become a qualified lead. And that's how I guarantee qualified leads to anybody that uses my services.
That's, Hiett, as you're bringing that up, I'm thinking, first of all, we've been around the block, you and me. Dr. Jacalyn's a baby by comparison. We're seniors. We are senior executives, and I remember meeting you. In fact, at I think it was a telegraph wire convention or a buggy whip convention.
Yeah, and it was the Morse code convention.
One of those trade shows we used to go to together. And people go to trade shows all the time, and you'll hear 2 people go to the same trade show, 2 businesses, and one will come back and say, "What a complete waste of time! I didn't meet anybody." And another right next to them at the next table will come back with like a stack of index cards. Well, we don't do it that way anymore. You know what I mean? a whole bunch of people worth calling who could actually turn into business. So the difference isn't how pretty your table looks or how fancy your display is. The difference really is how you use whatever it is you have. Isn't that true?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I've fought with a couple of presidents of companies who had 10 products that they offered. And I said, you will only have 3 at the show. And literally, I can remember the morning as we were opening the doors, he said, I don't believe you. This isn't going to work. Within an hour, he said, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Really?
Because his 3 top money-making products were being featured. Now, did some people say, can you do this or this or this for me? He said, yeah, sure, I can do that. Whereas before, when he had all 10 of them, somebody would come up and say, I want you to tell me about number 7. Well, number 7 was his lost leader. And he didn't want to talk about that, So it's how you put it together, and then how you approach the audience as if every one of you is a prospect. You're going to have to convince me you're not.
So it's not just about sitting there behind the table and looking pretty or watching things. It's not about making sure nobody steals anything. You don't care if they steal anything. You care that they need to stop at your table, meet somebody, get involved in a productive conversation that really is genuinely focused on what you do or what you sell. And that's how you sell things at a trade show.
Absolutely. Do you know why all of the booths, or 90% of the booths, have the table at the front of the booth?
Yeah, why?
Because it's the last piece of equipment that is delivered to the booth. And they just plop it down in front, plop it down in front, plop it down in front, plop it down in front. And the exhibitors come and say, oh, that's where it's supposed to be. So none of my clients ever have a booth, ever have a table across the front. It's down the side or at the back of the booth, but it's never across the front. And I do not, if there are chairs, they are stools. They are high stools to where you can sit, with both feet on the ground, and you're almost standing up. But I will not allow ordinary chairs or tables across the front.
Now,
actually, I'm sorry, Jacalyn. Go ahead.
So I have a question. I've actually been to trade shows where they have sofas, and I see people like almost passed out. It's like, oh gosh, just lying there thinking, what is this about? So I'm sure you wouldn't recommend that either, right?
Oh, no. In some of the larger booths, I will have a work table, but normally it is a cocktail table. It's the high bar tables. I forget what they call them, but they're you have to have a stool, have to have a tall chair at. So you kill 2 birds with 1 stone, but it allows you to do business face to face, at an eyeball level. And I will not allow sofas. But I've been to the same ones you've been to that have plush chairs in them, and they just sort of bury themselves in the plush chair.
Yeah, people don't want to get up and mingle and do anything. They just want to take.
It's not a museum. A trade show isn't a museum. It's not like you want people to come by and look at your exhibit.
Yeah.
Because then you might as well just be dressed as a cave person and standing next to a stuffed mammoth. I mean,
what a lot of people don't realize is that what you exhibit at show A may be entirely different from what you exhibit at show B or show C, and especially for the company that has 10 different products. Well, Brown and Ferris Industries, back when they existed, the trash people, they had 10 verticals. My predecessor, we supported all of the local shows around the country in every city that there was a BFI operation, and my predecessor sent artwork or graphics for all 10 of our products. Well, some of these guys in the field said, oh, I got to put all 10 of them up there. And it looked like the Grace L. Ferguson Airline and Storm Door Company. When they started to order them through me, I said, what 3 BFI products or services are you Exhibitor. No, I need all. No. What are the three in your market that are your, leaders? And all of a sudden, trade show volume and ROI from trade shows went up substantially because each market was featuring their primary products or services to their market.
So, and that, you see, I don't think people think strategically about trade shows at all. I think most people, most of the companies I've worked for have thought it's just something you need to endure. You've got to show up because you're expected to. And I think your point, by the way, before, I used to work for Digital Equipment Corporation, Hiett. I don't know whether you've ever heard of them, or Dr. Jacalyn. They were at one time the world's second largest computer maker, just behind IBM, much bigger than anybody we know today. And they don't exist anymore. Part of the reason why is because they believed, and you made this point before, that you needed to get out there with everything, not just the 2 or 3 things you knew people wanted, but you wanted to show the whole range of everything anybody could possibly buy. And we used to make a joke all the time, because it never worked for us. We used to make a joke all the time that if Digital Equipment Corporation sold sushi, they'd call it cold, wet, dead fish. Everything they put out was just commoditized. There was no zoom or dazzle or wonder in any of it.
One of my hallmarks, when Compaq bought Digital, it was 6 weeks before a major industry show, one of the verticals that they were both in. They both had 70 by 70 booths at the show. I was hired by Compaq to make that one company, one booth at that show.
Wow.
And I went to show management 6 weeks before the show and said, "You don't know me, but we're going to become very good friends. I hereby cancel the Compaq booth, cancel the Digital booth, and you and I are going to have to come up with something like maybe a 70 by 90 booth to put the two of us in." This is 6 weeks before the show opened.
Wow, quite a task.
Wow.
It was, but it's fun. And
how did that turn out? I mean, what when you finally did open with that, how did it work out?
It was very interesting. We grouped the similar products in the similar verticals, like mainframes and desktops and the mobile, and it was all branded Compaq, but some of the big stuff still had the Digital logos on it. They covered them over or took them off, but it was the first. We did that for in 3 different verticals, and that was a whole another story. But it was certainly a challenging opportunity.
Well,
Hi, the question I have for you, because I've heard this one way, or people take one side or the other. Some people say it's vitally important that you have a bunch of logo merchandise items that you give away, and other people said it's just a waste of money. So what are your thoughts?
This question.
I absolutely abhor Chucky giveaway stuff.
How do you really feel, Hiett? Tell us the truth.
Well, it's in fact, when I went to work for Compaq, my predecessor had actually hired a magician and had built him a little mini stage that ostensibly he was to do his little magic act, which would draw the crowd, which would then be overviewed by the Compaq or the BFI employees, so that when the act was over, they would then immediately descend upon the delegates. Of course, it never happened, and the only thing I allow my clients to give away is bigger stuff to the senior buyers, and it's hidden away. But it is, you're there to do business, and I spend more time helping them come up with the open-ended question. And while it seems like a very simple deal, with one company, I remember the president and 3 of his vice presidents and I sat on the trade show floor the day before for almost an hour before we came up with the open-ended question. but it was such a good open-ended question that it literally qualified. There was only one other competitor in the business, and the open-ended question was such that we were able to nail the competitor and get the information we needed to have them be our client.
So if there's no logo merchandise, no magician, I'm sure no jugglers either, what about the lure of food and alcohol?
No and no. What you want to have is a show-specific, product-specific literature. Now, it can be just an 8.5 by 11, two-sided, or maybe of 11 by 17, but it is show-specific, i.e., if you're at the left-handed widget show, then the literature is about left-handed widgets, and it's audience-specific because, the old 80-20 principle, only 20% maximum, 20% of the entire delegate field is relevant to your product. So you address, head, lead, engineer of left-handed widgets, or the electromagnetic capacities of left-handed widgets. So if they walk away with something, it is specifically addressed to them about the product or service that they can get from you.
So is it fair to say then that all of these dangling carrots, so to speak, are actually for the 80% that are not going to be interested or aligned with your product or service?
I would guess that both of you have a large number of ballpoint pens that you have acquired.
Yes.
Yeah. I once or twice a year, I end up, donating to a women's shelter, and a whole lot of ballpoint pens go to those women's shelters. And the candy, it's great. It keeps me going during the show. I couldn't tell you where I got the M&Ms or the Snickers bars, or I go to the point that if they've got a potpourri of candy, I'll rummage through it and pick out the 2 or 3 that I want and say thank you and leave.
Al's there with a large bag. Just say, give me all of it. I'll take it.
I'll just amplify something on that. When you sell computers and you hand out pens for free, right? Which we did. We handed out all kinds of stuff. We used to make jokes about it all the time. And then somebody goes and takes your pen and tries to write something with it, and it doesn't write.
Oh, yeah.
Which often it doesn't. The whole conversation becomes not about all the wonderful things you do right, but this stupid pen that you handed out to everybody that skips and doesn't write. And after a while, it just becomes talk on the trade show floor that completely undermines all the money you spent on everything else. Yep. So if you're going to do anything, make sure you do it right. And I also remember one time when I worked at Digital, they were working cooperatively with Apple. And Digital had an inferiority complex when it came to Apple. Really, Digital was very buttoned down and very serious, and Apple was crazy people. So Digital said, well, we have to amp up our game because we're co-hosting this program with Apple. And so they thought, and they finally agreed they would take all of their products and make baseball cards out of them, and have printed packets of these baseball cards that they could hand out to people, so that kind of like getting the 300 things that Digital makes were on different cards scattered across all these packets. And they did that, and they handed them out. And somebody came by later and said, boy, that was really clever. Not at all what I would expect from Digital. And the Digital guy said, well, what did you think? And he said, wasn't it like Apple? And they said, well, no, Apple wouldn't have forgotten the gum.
I will give you a expensive story. This was a second-tier oil and gas show in Tulsa or someplace, Oklahoma City. And one of the exhibitors had a really nice, almost pocket-sized tool kit, really professionally done. And
nice.
All the men really liked it. Man, I'm going to take this and I'll put this in my glove compartment. The day after the show, as I was leaving the airport and going through security, This was back when, you can see this coming. One of the
Yeah.
TSA agents said, "Oh, no, you can't take that on board. That has, it's too heavy, or whatever." So there were 40 or 50 of those beautiful tool sets, piled up on the TSA.
They were confiscating them.
They confiscated them. Yeah. It was because everybody had them in their carry-on baggage, and they couldn't carry it on, and so
That's pretty funny.
Be careful. Be careful what you put out there, and make sure they're going to be able to walk away with it.
Yeah.
All right, Hiett. I know we talked about this a little bit while you were getting ready to appear on the program. And are trade shows after COVID dead? Are they ever coming back?
They are coming back, and they're going to come back stronger. The two shows that I have done in the last 6 months, they were only a third of the size. I mean, one of them that had 1,500 delegates in 2019 had 500 delegates. The other one, here in town, the Society of Human Resource Managers, SHRM, that 2 years ago had 1,500, and they had 500. But you know what? Those 500 were far more qualified delegates. They were the decision makers or the influencers. They were not the secretaries. They were not the the XYZ shows in town. 10 of you or 12 of you can just go over and walk the hall, and have an afternoon at it. So it becomes incumbent upon the exhibitors to be far more precise in what you exhibit. And that was another situation where my client had 10 services. He was a service operation. And I said, no more than 3. I compromised with him, and we did 4, but they were the top 4 things that anybody needed to do to hire, to where he was applicable. So they are going to come back. They are coming back. And they are also learning how to use the hybrid technology a little better, to where even if they stay virtual, they're going to be more effective.
Hiett, I have a question for you, and this is just based on my experience. I sold meetings and events for probably 18 years, and this happened on several occasions where a specific client wanted to make sure that there were no other conferences taking place at the venue where there might be distractions, so to speak, or there might be the lure to take people from the one conference to the other. So I'll give an example. It was a trade show for a certain organization, and in the same venue was the adult video network. So so you had people walking around scantily dressed, and people from the trade show that I was with, they were actually leaving and going over to this other show because they found it to be interesting. So do you have to verify who else is going to be, if they don't have the entire space for that show?
Yeah, it would be, and that's the show management. I mean, I'm thinking of the convention center in New Orleans, which is down in the right on the river, and they have, I think, 16 halls side by side. And I have been there when there's been as many as 4 large national shows. Each one of them taking 4 halls, which is as large as an entire trade show hall in maybe Dallas or secondary city. Obviously, if there's going to be something like that, and you don't want to have that distraction, then it's perfectly. The hall itself is going to tell you, will tell you who else is booked at that time. I know the bridal extravaganza here in Houston is almost always side by side with the cat show. Now, I think they do that strategically because women like cats, and and when they go to the cat show, they'll say they'll pop into the bridal show, or they go to the bridal show and they'll pop into the cat show. So sometimes it could be beneficial to you, but it can also be the other side of the coin, like you had, where scantily dressed show and the prim and proper show.
Right.
No. Dr. Jacalyn, that was a great question. I want to follow up, and I also want to make a connection for people watching and listening. If you're an exhibitor, especially if you don't have a whole lot of trade show experience exhibiting, you want to call Hiett Ives, because they'll help you get the most out of the space you're reserving. Do I have that right?
Amen. Yes, sir.
Okay, so you want to. That's important, and also it's another thing. There may be 100 different table locations to choose from if you're smart enough to get there early and you could pick one. But whether you're near a door, whether you're in the back, whether you're in the front, who's around you, these are all important factors in deciding where you want your table, aren't they?
Well, in fact, I've got a client right now, a 10 by 10 corner booth is perceived to be 40% larger than its same 10 by 10 inline booth.
Huh.
Because it's on the end of the aisle, and that's why in many shows they charge a premium for the corner booths. Now, they don't charge you a 40% premium, but it's well worth the 15 to 20% premium to be perceived to be 4 times larger than your competitor.
That's a good tip right there.
And the other thing, a 10 by 20 booth is 4 times as rememberable as a 10 by 10.
Well,
so they've and this is more for hotel ballroom shows where maybe 20% of the booth might be 10 by 20, but they will be more remembered when they do surveys of people leaving the show. They remember the 10 by 20 booth. So the raw space is twice as much, but the accoutrements, the electricity, the other stuff, it's not double. It's it's maybe a double on the space, but is the accoutrements may go up only 20 or 30% above what the 10 by 10 accoutrements were. So if you can afford to the space, you're going to get far more bang for the buck. So those are the little things that I bring to the table and I will work with show management. It's sort of like when you're talking to somebody that knows what they're talking about, you treat them differently.
Yeah.
I've got a potential client that I'm taking to a large show in Vegas in April, and I was on the horn with show management yesterday, getting facts and figures that aren't in the literature, but are very so apropos. He was giving it to me because he knew I was one, I was asking for a good chunk of real estate. And 2, he knew I was asking the right question, so he wanted to make sure I end up coming.
Yeah, that's great. So
he knew you knew what you're talking about.
He does, and Dr. Jacalyn, you and I think have been to enough trade shows to know how important that is. It's not a DIY kind of a thing. I mean, it's not just space and a table, and I mean, right off the top of my head, don't put the table in front. If there's a corner available, take it, because it looks much bigger than an inline table. I mean, all these, and and that is just scratching the surface, because beyond that, Hiett, you can help people decide what to show, help people decide how to staff the booth and how you should talk about what you're showing. I mean, that's all you, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. In fact, I have the president of one company. We had a 20 by 20 booth, and he hired me, and we built the booth, and I trained his staff. I was working one aisle saying, how do you use this in your operation? Who's responsible for this? He was in the other aisle. Can I show you my widget? Can I show you my widget? He wasn't comfortable using the direct approach that I use and his salespeople used. I had another president, I've got a loud voice, so I'm talking to people maybe 10, 15 feet away. Hey, come on over here. I want, how do you use this? Well, he wanted to one up me. He was, hey, you 30 feet away. Hey, you come on down here.
Hi, I feel like with you, time stands still, don't you, Al?
I've never seen him. I've never seen him this immobile ever, and hopefully, I'll never see him this way again because it's a lot more fun when Hiett's moving around. And I also want to let everybody out there know we know Hiett. We've been working with Hiett for a long time. He's got a lot of personality, easy to get to know, very friendly, very smart, very experienced, a great presenter. We haven't even talked about that. You're very articulate. You have a great way of presenting things and presenting yourself. And if there are those two people, one of whom got nothing out of a trade show, and then the table next door, they're bragging about how many leads they came back with and how many sales they're going to make from it. The difference is that second group was probably coached and prepped by Hiett Ives.
Amen.
Yeah, cool.
Well,
right on, brother. Right on.
It's such a pleasure to have you on the team, first of all. And second of all, your knowledge in this area is really something people need to tap into. So they can reach you at your website, which is hiettives.com. And they can also email you at hiett@hiettives.com. And your phone number that you'd like to share?
832-372-6900. That's 832-372-6900. And you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
Fabulous. I actually have that phone number committed to memory. That's scary.
You figure. So you don't want to go to court without a lawyer. You don't want to go to the IRS without an accountant. You don't want to go to a trade show without Hiett Ives. Same thing.
Thank you,
Excellent.
sir.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being here, Hiett.
My pleasure. And anybody that is doing a local show that wants to take it regional, or a regional show that wants to take it national, or a national show that wants to take it international, that's my stock and trade, as well as writing the copy for the collateral material, the websites, and making their marketing happen and being client-oriented and call to action.
Great to know, Hiett. Thanks, buddy.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Hiett.
My
Bye-bye.
pleasure. Bye, y'all.
Bye now.
I don't think he was waving to us, you?
I don't know. I think he was waving and jumping up and down. And, I'll tell you the truth. If this had happened for Jeffrey Toobin, he wouldn't be in the kind of trouble he's in today.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So there's a benefit from it. But it was great having him on the program, as always. And it's great to have Hiett in the neighborhood, Dr. Jacalyn's neighborhood, large and growing.
Wow. And by the way, Hiett's introduced me to a number of people out in Texas. I think he's unfrozen. Oh, no, I was going to bring him back, but he's still frozen.
No, he's still frozen. He's still backstage. But that's
Yeah,
great guy, and a great resource for a trade show.
For sure. And Al, you're doing such wonderful work with your company. I'm going to spotlight you again to share more about that.
Oh, thank you, Doc. Actually, it's this week alone, I've had a couple of great conversations with companies about the sweet spot in the organization that represents the purpose of the organization and how they can align their people with it. And fun of the work that we do is that we use the voices inside your own company. We don't sell you a culture. You have one. Our job is to use some of the instruments and tools we've created to give everybody a voice, and from that voice, pull together all of the things that we need to know in order to be able to crystallize and turn into a role model, that sweet spot purpose, role target that represents your company when it's doing its best work on its best day. So for us, alignment with purpose means aligning your people with the role model that represents the best of you. And we have a method for pulling that together and revealing it to you. And it's really a lot of fun for us. So thank you, Doc. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. al.cini. It's always a pleasure having you here and learning with you and from you.
Thank you. And it looks like Hiett put up his contact information.
He did, yes.
Yeah.
with a little help from me. There we go.
Yeah, that's it.
Hiett Ives. The email is Hiett, and that's 2 T's, by the way, HIETT at hiettives.com. His telephone number, which is his preferred method of communication, is 832 372 6900. You can get more information at his website, www.hiettives.com.
Well, you've got a kind of a lyrical way of saying people's phone numbers, Dr. Jacalyn. It's very, very effective. Thank you very much.
You're so welcome. Another one of my unknown talents, I guess.
It's a talent, one of the many talents that just surface. You never know when they're going to pop up. This is a good one. Great.
Well, if you want me to sing your phone number, please contact me. I'm happy to do it. All right, my friend, another great show. Thank you again for being here.
So much fun for me, a pleasure for me. And thank you, Dr. Jacalyn, for having me.
Thank you. See you later. Bye.
Take care now.
I just love what I do. I say this all the time. I do have some announcements. Yes, I love announcements. Let's just go through them quickly. We have 2 new shows this week. So if you're interested in being a guest on either one, please go over to our website, which is usaglobaltv.com. Our first show is the Film and Music Show. This is from Hollywood to Pinewood Studios to Nashville to Broadway to West End. We will be featuring all types of performing artists as well as directors and producers and anyone who's interested. If you fall in this category, please do join us. Our next new show this week is Adversity to Awesome. And this is based on a book that I've written that is coming out April the 4th. I had the pleasure and privilege to interview people who have had incredible adversity in their life, and they've come out on the other side helping other people. This show is for you. If you'd like to be a guest and you have adversity to share to help inspire other people, please go to our website, which is usaglobaltv.com. Finally, we have a brand new course. You heard Al mention about the power of listening. This is the power of listening part 4, which is actually broken down into 2 other parts. It's called the transition. So you're probably familiar with the 3D dimension of life, which is based primarily upon ego, capitalism, and living in a materialistic world, versus the 5D world is where we lead with our hearts, follow our intuition. We base our actions on the good of the community, the good of mankind, taking care of our planet. What do we do in between 3D and 5D? That's where we have to face the shadows of ourself. Madeline Chan, international award-winning singer, songwriter, producer, and author, will be joining me to facilitate this course. We're offering it in March, so please go over to Eventbrite and put in the power of listening, or else you can go over to my website, drjacalyn.com. That's my personal website, and you can sign up for this brand new course there. Here are the other courses that we offer under the power of listening. If you complete the one on the left, the Power of Listening Foundational Courses, Parts 1 and 2, you can be a regular guest on our show, which is called The Listening Mentor. So we hope that you'll join our team. You get featured on 2 websites, usaglobaltv.com and also drjacalyn.com, along with your certificate of completion. So there are the announcements I have for today. We will be off for about an hour, and then we're coming back with Talking Heads. And we have a brand new team member who is joining us this evening, followed by another Talking Heads episode. And Jean Keegan-Daly will be joining us at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, followed by Mariska Duprier. So we look forward to that. Thank you again. We're going to close out the show with a beautiful, wonderful song that is always inspiring. It is Victoria and Lavinia, the Debutantes. Take a look, and we'll see you in about an hour. Thank you.